Right, so once you've got your backgrounds done, we're going to color in, well, watercolor some die cuts to create some flower embellishments for the cards. So all I've done is pre-cut a whole lot of dies. I used the Sizzix dies and I just cut out a whole lot of stuff. Some of them I've already started to use, some of them I've already started to color in, but basically if I can, I cut out on Vicky Bouton's foundation paper, her mixed media foundation paper, otherwise a good quality watercolor cardstock or mixed media paper. So along with your die cuts, we're also going to, well, I'm going to use the Tim Holtz Distress pencils to color them in with. So I've already sharpened, put some of the shavings into one of these goodies. It comes in very handy. I think I'll just keep it off to the side because that works better for me. I have some water already in a little container to put the brushes in. I have a spray bottle with some water in so that I can spray it on the table. I have various size round watercolor brushes, and then I have the pencils opened up ready to use if I don't want to use it from the palette. So you've got to pick and choose what works for you. If you don't have the distress watercolor pencils, then your distress inks would work, and if you don't have those, then chalks. You find something that works for you to be able to color in. I like to work en masse, and you know, like to color everything a few goodies in at a time, and what I don't use today, then I'll just put aside to use at a later stage. So I've got these over here. So what I'll do is, when I go to use my palette, I'm going to start by putting down this color here. I think it's antique linen. Can't remember. Yes, antique linen. So I'm going to put down a bit of antique linen. So all I do is wet the little well, the ink well, and then just work that water into the ink until it's nice and creamy. I'm sorry if this is bugging you. There we go. Once it's nice and creamy and I can see that the color is all mixed up and mixed in, I'll then put down a base layer. So that's off to the side, and then I'll just keep going to it to use throughout. So I've just got a base layer on. So you will also probably need a bit of some paper towel to blot off any excess ink you may have on your brush. I like to put down a base layer just to cover some of the white. I don't put it on perfectly. I'm just going in and putting some ink roughly on so it dampens my paper and just breaks the white. Right, so as my little wells, as the ink finishes up in there, I just sharpen the pencil and add a few more shavings. I'm going to show you, if you don't have the option to do it this way, I'm going to give you an idea to use directly from the pencil. There are plenty of ways to use this product. Okay, so those are done. I'm just going to let them dry a little bit. Remember, wet on wet blends, wet on dry covers. That's the easiest way to remember. So if I didn't want to blend this color to blend now with my next color, I'd go in and add some heat, but I don't mind that it's going to blend with the color that I'm going to add on top of that. So I thought the next color that would look good on this would be frayed burlap. So another option to use your pen pencils. Okay, I'm just going to rinse off any excess of the antique linen, is to wet your brush and then just rub it on your pencil until you get that nice creamy look that we got in the water well, in the ink well. And from that we can then just go on and add some of the frayed burlap. Okay, so I'm not painting it on, I'm tapping it on. So that what happens is I get these little deposits of, what would we call them, little puddles of ink. So I'll just wet my brush again, pick up the ink and just tap it on so that I get those little puddles of extra ink. Some more intense ink where the puddles are and less where they aren't. Another option, if you don't want to use wet your pencil like that, is that you could then just color directly to the surface. I don't use this way very often. I find it much easier to add ink to the brush and then the ink that you've applied to the surface, you can then go in and just work that in to where you need it to be. But I think this is a good way to be adding some of this ink. Right, so I just pick up a little bit of water, back to my pencil, and then tap it on. So I want these to have like a browny kind of, like a straw color. Straw colored leafy kind of things, almost like grass more than a leaf. So with this particular one, you're not limited to just green or brown for this. You could make them yellow, purple, red, whatever color you feel like making. There are no rules, it's art. Okay, so I do suggest though that you just dry your pencil before you put it back into its little container. If you store them out open, then you can just pop it back into the container. So this time I'm just going to give it a quick dry because I'd like to build up the color, get it a little bit darker. Right, so there's that first layer, or first and second layer of color on. So I'm thinking that I can maybe get it a tiny little bit darker. I'm going to work with a bit of a smaller brush. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to just pick up some, I think it's ground espresso. What is the darkest one here? I think walnut stain. So again, I'm working in the little water well, I keep calling it that. The ink well, picking up some ink, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the top. Again, tapping it on. See what happens when I paint it on as opposed to when I tap it on. Okay, and I'm just going to tap it all the way along the side, just to get a little bit of that ink on the edges. It doesn't have to be perfect. Right, so we've got that next layer of ink on. I don't think I'm going to go too much darker because obviously I want it to show up on the background. So if I check it like that, if that's the background, it's going to stand up against, because I've done the backgrounds reasonably dark, it is going to stand up really well on the backgrounds. I'm just going to move those off to the side so that they can dry. And then I'm going to do, so basically that's how I would do the leaves. Most of the leaves I will add a base color, not necessarily antique linen, maybe the lightest green or a yellow, and then add another medium and a dark color over that. That's not necessarily the right way, it's just the way I do it. Right, so I'm going to do one of the flowers with you, and basically the way we do the flowers then is the same way that I do the leaves. I just use color. So sometimes when I die cut, not all the little goodies, some I mess up with the pressure and it doesn't die cut all the way through. I think I only put it through once and I should have actually put it through twice. But these ones that don't come out so nicely, I keep those as my base because I generally do two. Once I've colored both in, I will attach this other one on top, but just slightly offset it. Before I do that, I'll cut this little stem off, but for now I keep it on because it comes in handy when I need to work with it. So I would, again, I've got another one here as well, so I would work with all three of them at the same time. We can pick a color. I think the color that'll go nicely with this one, I think, is if we pick up, let's see, some Mermaid Lagoon. I think will look good with this one. Right, so the lightest color then, let me put my little water well. It's going to be a water well, we're just not going to get to ink well. Right, so I'm going to go with this light color here. I think that this is, let's see, it's speckled egg. So I'm going to work the ink in, get it nice and creamy, and I'm just going to apply a base coat like that. Again, you don't have to do it this way. If you have a way that works for you, do that. So I'm just getting a little bit of color on the background. I'm not doing like total coverage. There are little bits of white pieces sticking out here and there. And I'm just working that color in like that. Right. Then I'm going to go in with, I think it's Stormy Sky. Let me see, what is it? Ice Spruce, I think it is. Yes, a little bit of Ice Spruce. My color coding thingy that goes in the lid, I've lost it. So I'm just going to put some Ice Spruce on the centers, just to have that a little bit darker. I'm not going to take it further, and then I'm just going to zap that with a heat gun, because remember, wet on wet blends, wet on dry covers. Right, so any excess ink, I'm just going to dab up. There we go. It's reasonably dry. I've cleaned off my brush. I'm now going to go in and pick up the Mermaid Lagoon. Right. So we're just going to add some water to the ink, give it a good mix. And I'm just going to add this, I'm going to hold my brush at an angle and just add it to the tips like that. And I am tapping the ink on. I'm not painting the ink on. I'll just leave that one like that for now. Tap that ink on. go. I'm going to spritz some water on my mat. Okay, with what's left on my brush, I'm just going to mix that in. You can see how nicely it started to make little ink puddles. And again, I'm just going to then work it in from there with some water on my brush. So I've got rid of most of the ink. I'm just going to tap that on. And I'm going to tap it over the ice spruce as well. There we go. You need to find a way that works for you. This is not necessarily, like I said, the right way, but it is my way. So I feel like this one could do with a little bit of extra ink, so I've gone in to pick up some ink out of the container. There we go. That looks good. Right, so before I carry on, I just want to check that this will work on this. Oh yes, definitely it'll work beautifully on this card if I add these little flowers to it. Perfect. Right, so again, I'm just going to clean up and put that aside so that can start to dry. These will be pretty dry by now, so they can be moved over, and then this can go up into the drying section. Right, so I'm going to carry on doing that with the rest of the little die cuts. I'll put on a little bit of music, speed it up slightly, and you can then just watch me work. there we go. I've inked all of them, got them looking more or less the way I want them to look. So the next thing I would do then is just go and shape them. I have this flower shaping tool that works really well. If you don't have one of these, you could just use a pencil and just roll your flower around the pencil like that. You just want to give it a bit of, what do you want to call it, 3D effect. So by shaping it a little bit, then it's not so flat. Okay, so I would do that to the flowers, to the leaves, just give them a little bit of definition. So like these little leaves here, I just squish them a little bit, fold them in half so that they're not so flat. Just give them a bit of a thing. So if you're really struggling with those ones, what does work nicely, I use this my quilling tool, and I just fold the leaf around the quilling tool, and that just gives it a little bit of life like that. Right, so these ones I would also just bend them a little bit. Right, so I'm not going to do them all with you, I'll do the rest off camera, but you get the idea. So I'm going to show you one more. Just work gently with them because it is, after all, paper. Okay, so even these ones, I would even then use these ones just to give them a bit of a bend and a buckle. And you don't always have to turn them towards you, you can turn some away. And I would also, like I say, go in with the leaves and just roll them around the quilling tool, lift them up a little bit so that they're not so flat. Alright, so I'm going to carry on doing that, and then I will see you in a bit and we can start to assemble the cards. Okay.